couple minutes behind. Here it is, 12:07 on Twitch, running 7 minutes behind, and primarily it was because I was getting everything prepped up before the day and just lost track of time. Got some painting to do, however, I was not quite ready. So I'm going to pop on my stay tuned. I'm going to take just a couple of minutes to get my wet palette and my paint water cleaned because I was painting this morning. And then I'm going to be right back for the show. Make sure if you are joining us today, just stay tuned just a moment. I'll be right back. I've just got to change out my waters and we'll get into some fun painting. I've got a couple of things set aside that I really want to show on stream. So just a moment and I'll be right back with you. Okay, some fresh water. I'm going to adjust the temperature a little bit. All right, just lost so much track of time. All right, now I believe we're all set. So, Twitch, Saturday, just after noon. I'm Joe with Green Oaks Gaming. Today we are in the studio doing a lot of painting. Oh my goodness gracious, we've got so much to do. So much to do on so many miniatures. I actually am going to bring in a few different miniatures that we are working on so we can do a couple of different things. This one I've started. I've had the paints here for quite a while. I want to finish this one out. This is a undead samurai that is going to be part of a diorama, and I have been using the vampiric flesh tones from Reaper. We started with the shadow and then started layering up the vampiric skin. So I want to touch these back up. Mix up that paint real good. And I'm just using a Vertex to get good mixed paint. This one still looks like it may have a little bit of separation on it, so I'm going to go again. Now, one thing I noticed as I was painting this one with that shadow tone, it does not have a whole ton of contrast in those skin tones. And contrast is very important when you're doing miniature painting. Now, this is for a competition piece. So I want to go through and just make sure that I've got really good contrast. So I'm actually going to be painting over what I've previously painted, just so that I can make sure that the contrast is nice and vibrant. And to do that, I'm actually going to add just a little bit of pure black in with my base or my shadow tone, just so that I can have real good solid contrast, because I want to be able to move on from the skin today and start doing the clothing, the undertones of the clothing. So I'm going to use a little bit of black in with my shadow tone and get me this cool gray color. Maybe a little too stark. There we go. And thin it down just a hair. And I just want to go in and get the deepest shadow areas on this miniature. With this tone. And just, I want to add in plenty of contrast in this miniature. I anticipate the judges picking it up, really evaluating the contrast tones, the blends on the skin. And if I don't drive a lot of contrast in there, I may not score as well. And then the same prospect I'm going to do on the hands as well as the feet. And I want really good, strong contrast on this figure. So I'm going into the deepest areas. It's going to be very paramount. Make sure I have good separation on those fingers. And then the deepest hollow areas of the feet, which will get a little more separation when we paint in the sandals, of course, because of the tonal colors. this is a Reaper figure out of Bones 5. There we go. Again, I'm going to use this as part of a diorama. I only have until basically Labor Day to get this whole diorama done. Now I've got the other figure done, but I've got a tree to finish sculpting. I've got the base to build up. So I've got a lot of work on top of painting this miniature. All the ground cover. I'm going to actually build a bridge on this diorama. So I've definitely got my work cut out for me. And I don't have my phone nearby to watch chat, so I will be watching as often as I can. I will dip over to the screen to watch for any chat coming up. Now I'm just going through and laying in the shadow tones. Again, now we've already done this aspect of it and started to do the highlights. But the shadow tones, I just felt they were not contrasted enough into the miniature. So this will help drive more contrast. That is my goal. I hope your weekend is going good. Last night for one of my groups of players, we're getting ready to end a campaign that was just up to level 10. It was I call it a gathering campaign, so where I get a new group together to play D&D, but getting ready after this campaign at level 10 ends, or during level 10, they wanted to continue with another high tier campaign going to tier 3. So I worked on a special campaign for them, and that will be kicking off within the next couple of weeks, actually, I anticipate. There was a lot of discussion on whether they were going to bring their current characters or do new characters. So to make it super easy, I went through and created a list of magic items they will start the game with. So I sent that out to them last night. I have not heard feedback yet on it, so I'm kind of interested to see what comments and questions that drives in. with the current campaign, I do anticipate just 2 more sessions. And then that one is also going to be a pretty short campaign, so it's going to get them up to level 16. Then I actually am prepping in the I guess interim, you would say. After that, I'm going to start a new level 1 campaign, and that'll be a level 1 to 20. So I've been getting ready to start that prep work. We're going to cover some of that on our Monday show, actually. If you are interested in campaign starting, our Monday show, we're going to be doing it from start to finish. Starting a new campaign, world building, area building, people building, and then how we translate that through the different tiers. So it should be pretty interesting. I'm excited to explore another new area. Of my game world of Earth. I've decided I do want to go with another area that I have not used in some time. So that will be a lot of fun. Thin down the highlight, or this is actually the midtone, not the highlight. It's because I did the deeper shadow. definitely helping that contrast. Got a bit of a stray hair there. You can see I'm using a wood block as my handle. Tell you what, these wood blocks are great see another stray hair. These wood blocks are great for display bases. When I'm doing 28mm miniatures, I love using these wood blocks for decorative bases. They work so good. Because this is a mid-tone, works great for continuing driving that separation from the shadow areas, adding more contrast. Try to drive a little more contrast into these toes, which will get even better when we get up into the highlight, and of course adding in the nails or claws if you want to consider them claws. One more foot to go on this, and then we'll blend in a highlight and then an ultra highlight. If you happen to come across, give us a follow. I'm not asking people to subscribe, but we would like to grow our base here and increase to more followers. once we have some milestones, we've got some exciting stuff. We've got a D&D starter set that we're going to give away when we hit 25 followers. If we hit 50 followers, we have a D&D Essentials kit that we are also going to be giving away. Of course, by increasing the number of followers, that just means we get more exposure to more people, which in our community, that's what it's all about, gaining exposure and getting in front of people who share your hobbies and interests. Of course, following a channel does not cost anything, and because we're not looking for subscribers, just followers, there's no fee, just a little bit of support in that follow. We have a pretty easygoing schedule. We do try to keep on time, on track, on subject. And we're also open for ideas for content that everybody would like to see. So if you have content that you feel is not being covered enough, or you'd like a different perspective on it, let us know. Perhaps it is something that we can do and cover. Shows are pretty easy flowing. Monday is about like world building, exploring game worlds. Wednesday, we use our miniatures to build fun characters. Fridays, we review different things. It could be anything from game materials. Last night we actually did brushes for miniature painting. So right on brand for what we enjoy doing with miniatures as an aspect of our games. I was thinking about asking my players about the final session of our current campaign, if they would be interested in me streaming it for my Twitch channel. If so, that would be a Thursday night. I have not streamed any of my games ever. I feel that's a pretty heavy market. A lot of people stream games. So I haven't really decided if I'm going to ask my players how they feel about it or not. I don't know. Sometimes, you know, they've gone a long time playing this story, and well, I'm all about anonymity. You know, we would not show faces aside from mine. I would be comfortable showing mine, but I would have the camera just facing me the whole time, so you could hear the players. They would not have to be on camera. The setup that we have, I don't know that it's super conducive to catch all the audio and all of that. Where we play is at one of the players' homes, and to cart all of this equipment for microphones and multicams and everything, even though I would probably only do one camera, but like microphones and everything so that you could hear from the other players. I just don't know that logistically it makes sense, and I think if we didn't have the microphones and everything, it would not do the opportunity any justice. So I don't know. I probably will not even breach the subject with them. The more I think about it, just logistics of the endeavor. If I want to do decent content, I just don't think it makes sense. So I guess in some ways I answered my own question there, huh? But what a week of work this last week was. Oh my goodness. So glad it is the weekend and I'm sitting in my studio doing some beautiful painting. It was definitely a rough week. Glad it is over. Ooh. A lot of work there, a lot of work. But that's all of our skin tones now nicely done. One thing I do want to do, as carefully as possible, is do the under part of the helmet in black. That is going to set up deep shadows. And then as I paint, I can add in some browns. To give it more leather aspects. But it will block it in. So when we paint the armors, it will stand out. And to get those framing aspects of the face in there nice and tight. Whew. That will drive in those shadows, give that separation, it'll be really good. Going over, just looking at some of these joints, so the hands were separate. I thought where the armor was would be good variations, but there's one area here that just gives me a little bit of concern. On this sleeve here, where that's fabric, that should continue on to the sleeve there. So this little element here should not have as deep a cleft, where here you've got the armor over the sleeve, it's okay, but here you've got a little bit too much cleft in there. So I am going to do a little bit of green stuffing on this here. I thought I would be able to work a lot more on this. Miniature today, but it does not appear that I will be able to. So cut me out some green stuff here. Stuck to the plastic a little tight. And now it's sticking to my finger pretty tight. All right, let me get a Well, that's okay because we've got plenty of other miniatures that we need to work on. So maybe we'll go through, and for the other diorama, I have a metal miniature that we're going to be adding onto that diorama. And I've got a couple of miniatures that are just PCs. I've got owlbears. I've got, of course, our display pieces. I've got one that I got to do some skin on, some flesh tones. So many miniatures. Maybe we'll work on a dragon a little bit and do some reds, some red scales. All right. A little dab. Here, this is not going to take much. And I'm just using my pokey tool to form this in. And fill out that little bit of gap that we had. I'm just following exactly what the sculptor put down in the sleeve. For the form. And then just smoothing out any striations that I added with the tip of the pokey tool. I may add a little bit into that cleft on the arm there, just so it's not as deep. Just so it's not as deep. I'm looking to see, do I have anything else that I need to use some green stuff on? So, same concept here. I'm just going to fill in this gap a little bit. Take off my extra. Just so this gap isn't as deep. Smooth it out to blend in with that bit of sleeve. Following the contours that the sculptor added in there. And just like that. Now the challenge is the green stuff has got to sit to cure. A little bit of a challenge, but that's okay. So this figure here, I thought I felt something just shift. Maybe not. So this was a 3D print that had a little bit of a challenge on a foot, which will need built up. So I'll just add this green stuff here as a starting point to build up that foot. That way I'm not wasting the green stuff. And I can come in later and add more to finish out the details on this figure. Have a good base for sculpting and not waste any green stuff. All right, Samurai Jack, let's go through real quick and the shirt and pants are next. I'm going to do the pants. So into some brown colors. And we're going to be doing wood stain, shield, and driftwood brown. All right. I'll start with my deepest color, and I actually am just going to pop it in anywhere I think those pants will be visible. So a little bit of overpainting. This will react as act as our base coat. And actually, I'm going to do this entire underside here as well, just so it isn't gray. As I think about the judges picking it up and examining it to judge, I want to make sure I have as much of the gray covered as possible. into the armor. So this figure is going to have red armor, and generally you want to have some pops of contrast in, so some of the deeper elements. Normally I would not do something like brown where it's a complementary color to red, but I'm going to do green on the shirt, which is going to contrast the red really well. I don't want too much contrast. I want it to balance and equal out. And it will have some elements of leather, which will also be complementary if I put a warmer red-brown in, which this will encompass. So for the leather aspects, they'll have a little bit more tie-in with the brown breeches. Moment. All right, let me see. This one here, I had some things that I was going to do today. Oh, actually, yes. So the dagger handle, I'm also going to be doing in the same brown palette. So a wooden handle. And then we'll probably do a golden pommel on it. So this is nice because I can do a couple of miniatures with the same palette. And then once I finish that handle, then I can do the sash and the ribbon around the arm, which will be good. I thought about doing the wand as well in the browns. Yeah, let's do that. While it doesn't look like gnarled wood, I think we can paint it as wood and it'll be just fine. So I'll probably have to paint this about 4 or 5 times because this is so delicate and I catch it a lot as I am painting, I find. So we'll see how well it holds up while being painted for such a delicate little element. So this miniature I actually last night gave it a flat mat seal, just because I'm getting into some of the elements where I would be rubbing some paint on the cloak, on the book. So I wanted to give it a sealant so I can more readily handle it while painting it. So that way it'll give it a little more protection. And we'll give those a moment to try. Let's see, my vampiric skins are done. Get those ready to move back. Oh, there we go. I suppose I can work on the book pages. Yeah. So for the pages, I started out with a khaki highlight, and now I'm adding in skeleton bone for the pages of the book. And I want to look at this from a highlighting standpoint. Oh, that's got a lot of contrast. Yeah, that's got too much contrast. Too much contrast. I'm actually going to just let that dry. And then we'll blend, we'll do a blend on the khaki and that's the challenge of not painting everything start to finish in one section, is making sure your paints match. Keeping your formulas consistent is definitely important, so you can do more blending and everything. So I'm not happy with that at all. It's too stark, too stark. So we'll let that dry, and we'll tackle that separately. Let's check our browns on that figure. It's nice and dry. This one's still got a couple of areas that are a little wet yet, but some of it is dry, so I'm going to go back in and just touch up any areas that had a little bit of pullback. Make sure that I get good, consistent coverage, nice and opaque. Because we're going to be building our layers on top. Going to have a solid base for this. Solid base. And I just want to check and make sure there's no breaches shown around the waist. Nope, looks good. I have a little bit of the green that'll come through here, and then the sleeves. So this is super interesting, this well, this whole upper area. Is it bone? Desiccated flesh? Is it armor? What is it? I'm going to go ahead and pop some black in those sword sheaths. Just because I can. I've got that paint a little thin for that application, but that's okay. Yeah, super, super interesting. I have not with those vertebrae pieces look kind of cool, in that bony popping through flesh. Desiccated ribs could look pretty cool. But with all the other armor, I think it would not be doing it justice. So I don't know, I may do some more research on that first. But this will allow me to finish out the pants, and we'll get the sandals and get those aspects done. That way we've only got to work on the shirt, the armor, so everything up above While I've got that bone, actually, I am going to go through and start painting bits of the handle. So the wraps, generally, below the wraps, have ray skin, which is a very light in tone and color. Wrong color I dipped into. So that way, as I paint the wraps, that light color on the handles will still show through. I'm just going to cover them pretty holistically, carefully around the fingers. That way when we go to do the ribbon aspects, all we need to do is worry about the highest points, because these handles do have a lot of detail sculpted into them. And same with this one. I'm just going to drop in the light all the way around the hilt. Carefully around the hand. That will also give me a good base for the color of the wraps, which will also probably be red, but as opposed to the armor, it will be a brighter red. So the armor is going to be starting with a deep red. It's going to be pretty dark, and then highlight up. These will be like a medium red, highlighting up. All right, let's move on to starting to do some highlights on the browns. So you watch as I do different things on the two different miniatures. So this is a blend of my shadow color and my mid-tone. I'm going to be pretty liberal with this. That wood stain is only going to stay in the deepest recesses. This blend is going to cover a lot more. Because that is how we will get our shadows pushed in real deep and our highlights just screaming high. And some of these aspects, like down under here, most of the time, especially once the display is built, you're not going to be able to see them. But again, I am anticipating the judges picking it up and spinning it around and checking out all sides. So that is what we're painting for. Painting for those judges. And you probably on camera can't see much of a difference, but I guarantee you it is there. Now I'm not doing that same level with this figure where we painted the handle, because I'm going to do our mid-tone on this figure to have more contrast. And then we'll go in and start laying in that mid-tone on the pants. And to give it kind of a fabric-y feel, I'm going to be doing a too moist, like little lines that will help make it feel a little more organic and fabric-y. Into a little stippling on the lowest or smallest areas that will get this tone. And on this one, a little goes a long way. Doesn't require a whole lot. And after this, we'll start getting into highlight tones. That's where we'll use even less and less. We'll really drive up the sculpted aspects of these pants. On this back area, I hope I'm keeping this in frame. This is a challenging one to do. You've really got to think about where that light is going to be hitting it. So starting to see some, I know the camera doesn't show it super well, but starting to see some good highlighting coming through in those browns. Now our next one is another blend of our mid-tone and highlight. Again, on the Sorceress display one, we're not going to be doing this one. We'll go just to the highlight. But for our Samurai Warrior, we definitely are going to be popping some of this in here with some more stippling and lines. Here you want to think about those folds of the fabric. Where are your folds? It's going to be catching some of the ambient lights as well as reflective lights, refraction. This is not the direct light hitting it. This is the fabric just reacting to ambient light that is around. So we're still just highlighting aspects of fabric movement. Whew. So a lot of people don't do as much on these small elements, especially when there's not very much and it's going to be overwhelmed with the red. But again, because this is a display piece, I really need to be mindful of adding in these little bits of details that show technique and paying attention to detail, all that good stuff. So super, super important for me on this. Now this is just the absolute highlights. And there we go. Pants all done. Now on this one here, we've got this highlight yet to do. And it's not much, just the little dagger handle and the wand. Very subtle, very minute. But very important. Just like that. Whew. All right, let's see what else we've got. What else have we got? Got those reds for the armor. We're not ready to do yet. I've got a druid here. Let's actually, let me get some blue tack and get a couple prepped up here. Let's get some prepping going. How long have we been going here? Oh wow. Quite a ways actually, quite a ways. It's already 1:30, time flies when you're having fun. So I am going to get some blue tack. And we're going to lid up a couple of miniatures. I've got this cleric. That was a PC that we made. We're going to lid. Because I think we can work on the armor today. I've got a fairy. Or what was this one called? What did what was I told? This is a, yeah, flower fairy. Flower fairy is what I was told. That we cleaned up. Maybe I'll keep that blue tack out just so I can lit up a couple more, maybe. Because I've got so many. We are going to lid this flower fairy.
Just dropped off some goodies.
Oh, sounds like some goodies dropped off.
Shelves and a paint tent.
Ooh, nice. May then go to a break here pretty soon so I can get some shelves in place for paints. So we'll use up what white we have here. So we had been base painting this with white. I'm just going to use the white that we have to continue the base paint. And because we want that good opaque base color, you can see this is not super opaque. A lot of the blue-gray is showing through in these striations and everything, which means it just needs another base coat. And I'm just using pure white for this base coat. This is a, I believe this is a resin mini that I was commissioned to paint. Which, by the way, we do have commissions open. If you are needing a miniature for either display purposes, if you want to have a miniature painted up like your last PC, honor that last PC on your display case, I'm happy to oblige. If you're looking for miniatures that you can use on your tabletop for your role-playing games, I do a lot of tabletop miniature painting. My big variance is I'm not going to speed paint them. I'm going to give them all the care and attention that I feel player character miniatures need. I'm going to make sure that they look absolutely fabulous when they hit your table. If you're looking for display miniatures, something you want on the shelf that beckons to, maybe it's your heritage, maybe it's family seals, maybe it's just showing your love of the hobby of tabletop role-playing games, I would be happy to hear from you. The only thing I will not do is, if you are planning on entering a competition with a miniature, I will not paint your competition miniature for you. If it goes into a competition and I've painted it, I do watch a lot of them. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them. And I will call you out if you attempt it, as any artist should. Again, you can just see, oh, it looks like we're frozen up. What the heck is going on? Well, I'm not sure, but it looks like we're having some difficulties on our stream. Let me check and see here. Looks like maybe our camera okay, bear with me because our camera may have a little bit of funkiness to it. Oh yes, it looks like our camera has taken a little bit of a dive. Hold on. Well, yeah, how about that? That's going to be a great time for us to take a break. Let me alter the camera here. And change this one up a little bit. Oh, it's not going to be perfect. I know that. I apologize. But my other camera is just going to need a little quick check by IT. So I've got that ticket turned in. I'm just going to finish this base coat that we started here. I apologize about my overhead. I will get that fixed as quick as possible. But we will get this base coat on, then take a break, and get a good stretch in. See if we can't come back with our equipment fixed. Oh, what an intricate little figure this is. I wish that overhead had not stopped up on me. This is a super intricate figure. I've got a lot of, not a lot, I've got a couple of good ideas though on paint that I want to do for it. Paint colors and locations. So I'm hoping to really wow the client with this one. Very different from what I normally paint, so as far as form and color, both. So I may only get to base coat the front for its second coat. Let's see here. Bit of an element that didn't even get a first base coat. It's just tucked in there so hard. Getting this brush in there is a challenge. It's because it's just one piece. It's got this like crown element to it. May have to get it under the airbrush to be able to get that. spot. We're just about done with the puddle of white. Yeah, we covered that front pretty well. Like I said, there's one area in here that I'm just having a heck of a time getting to. The inner back of this crown. All right, I think that's a good pausing point for us now. Get up, get a stretch, and make sure we're staying hydrated. Get our camera checked out if I can get that going, and we'll log back in. Of course, if you're following us, you get an update on when we're logging in and when we're logging off. If you're not following us, now is the time. Don't hesitate. Give us that follow, and we'll catch you here as quick as we can anyhow.